John Mallory, a charismatic and promising candidate for the presidency, stood in his campaign office, surrounded by bustling staff and stacks of paperwork. It was a typical busy day when a small package arrived, addressed to him with no return address. Intrigued, he opened it to reveal an ancient, ornate artifact, a talisman with strange symbols. His campaign manager, Lisa, warned him to be cautious, but John brushed it off as a quirky gift from a supporter. He placed the talisman on his desk, not realizing the ominous power it held. That night, John experienced his first vision. As he lay in bed, the room grew cold and shadows danced on the walls. Ghostly whispers filled the air, and John saw terrifying visions of himself in a dark, desolate landscape, pursued by faceless entities. He woke up in a cold sweat, the talisman glowing faintly on his bedside table. He tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the stress of the campaign, but deep down, he knew something was wrong. In the following days, John's appearance began to change. Dark circles formed under his eyes, and his once vibrant complexion turned ashen. His staff noticed but attributed it to the stress of the campaign. John, however, knew it was something more. The talisman seemed to hum with an unsettling energy. He could feel its presence, a constant reminder of the dark visions that plagued his nights. During a crucial televised debate, John felt an overwhelming sense of dread. As he spoke, his voice suddenly distorted, echoing with an otherworldly tone. The audience gasped, and his opponent seized the moment to ridicule him. John could see malevolent faces in the crowd, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. He stumbled through the rest of the debate, his confidence shattered. The media was quick to pounce, speculating about his health and fitness for office. Desperate for answers, John and Lisa visited an occult library. They pored over ancient texts, searching for clues about the talisman. Lisa found a reference to a powerful curse tied to the artifact, which could bind a person's soul to a malevolent spirit. The only way to break the curse was to return the talisman to its rightful place. John felt a glimmer of hope, but knew that finding the location would be a daunting task. John's nightmares grew worse. He thrashed in his sleep, screaming as shadowy figures tormented him. He saw visions of his own demise, his body twisted and broken, surrounded by laughing specters. Each morning, he woke up feeling weaker, the talisman's glow intensifying. His campaign was suffering, and he felt his grip on reality slipping. Lisa convinced John to visit a psychic known for dealing with curses. The psychic, an enigmatic woman named Madame Zara, peered into a crystal ball and confirmed their worst fears. The talisman was cursed, and its power was growing. She warned John that the spirit would consume him entirely if the curse was not broken soon. Madame Zara offered to perform a cleansing ritual, but it would only buy them time. One evening, John's behavior took a terrifying turn. Alone in his office, he felt an uncontrollable urge to write. His eyes glowed with an eerie light as he scrawled strange symbols on the walls. His staff found him the next morning, the walls covered in cryptic messages. John had no memory of the event. He realized the spirit was beginning to possess him, taking control of his actions. Determined to confront the curse, John ventured into a dark forest rumored to be the source of the talisman's power. Ghostly figures surrounded him, their eyes glowing in the mist. They whispered his name, urging him to surrender. John felt the spirit's grip tightening, but he pressed on, determined to find a way to break the curse. The forest seemed alive, shifting and changing as he moved deeper into its heart. Deep in the forest, John discovered a hidden altar, overgrown with vines and moss. He knelt before it, holding the talisman aloft. The air grew colder, and the spirit's whispers became deafening. John recited an incantation from the ancient texts, hoping to break the curse. The ground trembled, and a sense of dread filled the air as if the forest itself was resisting his efforts. As John recited the incantation, the ground trembled, and a vortex of dark energy engulfed him. Ghostly hands reached out, grabbing him, pulling him towards the altar. John felt his strength waning, the spirit's wrath threatening to consume him entirely. He struggled to continue the incantation, every word a battle against the darkness. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Lisa appeared at the edge of the forest, holding a bright, glowing crystal. She had found a way to amplify the incantation's power. The light from the crystal cut through the darkness, giving John a glimmer of hope. She ran towards him, her determination unwavering despite the terrifying surroundings. John and Lisa stood together at the altar, the crystal and talisman held high. A dark, shadowy figure loomed above them, its eyes burning with fury. With the last of his strength, John recited the final words of the incantation, the light from the crystal growing blindingly bright. The spirit roared in anger, its form becoming unstable as the light pierced through it. The shadowy figure was torn apart by beams of light emanating from the crystal and talisman. The spirit's screams echoed through the forest as they were banished back to the netherworld. John and Lisa were bathed in a radiant glow, their expressions filled with relief and hope. The forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. Back in the campaign office, John and Lisa were exhausted but smiling. The room was filled with sunlight, and the walls, once covered in cryptic symbols, were now clean. The talisman lay on John's desk, its power finally broken. They knew the hardest part was over, but the campaign still lay ahead. John felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. John addressed his campaign team with renewed vigor. His eyes were clear, and his voice was strong. The team, once skeptical and fearful, now listened with renewed determination. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger. John's message of resilience and hope resonated deeply with them, inspiring a newfound dedication to the campaign. At a press conference, John revealed the truth about the cursed talisman. The media was skeptical at first, but the evidence was undeniable. Images of the talisman and the cursed events played on screens behind him. The public was shocked but ultimately sympathetic, rallying behind John's honesty and bravery. His transparency about the ordeal only strengthened his support base. John's political opponent watched the press conference in a dimly lit room, surrounded by advisors. They looked worried and defeated. The scandal they had hoped would ruin John's campaign had backfired, only making him more relatable and trustworthy to the public. The opponent's underhanded tactics were now under scrutiny, causing their campaign to falter. Election night was a celebration. The room was packed with supporters, balloons, and banners. John stood on stage, holding hands with Lisa, both smiling as they watched the results come in. It was a close race, but the tide was in their favor. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Every vote counted, bringing them closer to victory. John Mallory stood on a grand stage, addressing a cheering crowd. His face was filled with emotion and determination. He thanked his supporters, his team, and Lisa for their unwavering faith and support. The nightmare was over, and a new chapter was beginning. As he raised his hands in victory, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in months. The curse was broken, and the future was bright. His journey from darkness to light had inspired many, and his presidency promised to be one of hope and resilience.